Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
You are about to listen to the Totally Super Awesome 80s Reboot Overdrive podcast.
This podcast is our fan tribute to the Incredible Hulk TV show. Be advised that has been exposed to radiation and we caution to listen at your own risk. You have now entered GammaCast.
Hello and welcome once again to GammaCast. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is...
Phil Parrish.
Oh, Phil. Welcome to GammaCast, where we talk about the Incredible Hulk TV series from the late 70s, early 80s. This week's episode is The Disciple. First air date was March 16th, 1979. Directed by Reza Badia. Written by Kenneth Johnson, James Hirsch, and Nicholas Correa. This is actually a very interesting episode. We have actually two. Well, first off, we have our first returning character in the character of Master Lee Sung, played by Mako. We also have the 80s icon Rick Springfield making his debut, and of course 80s stalwart Gerald McRaney, Major Dad, and Simon himself, making his second appearance here on the Incredible. I think second appearance, or possibly third. Actually, is this his third?
I can't remember. I know.
Actually, I'm actually thinking he was actually. Let me get down to the Incredible Hulk. Because actually, now that I think about it, because he was in Death in a Family, and I actually believe he was in the race car episode. Let me see here, 79. Looking for the Incredible Hulk here. There we go. Yes. So he was in Death in the Family. He was in Ricky. He was in this one, The Disciple, as Colin Rourke, brother to Michael Rourke, also known as the Iron Fist. And he comes back one more time in 1980 in Death Mask. So that's four different roles for Gerald McRaney. He, of course, Gerald McRaney is one of these great character actors of the 1980s. He was in a lot of stuff before he actually broke himself out into the ongoing role in Simon & Simon. And then, as so many people do, reinvented himself after years of drama as a comedic actor and became Major Dad. Which of course is a great moment of American history. We all remember Major Dad. And again, Rick Springfield. And I know he was a rock star, and I can't remember what his song was. I don't think it was Jesse's Girl. I'm forgetting exactly what Rick Springfield's song was, but I know he had one. Come on, Phil. You know everything. What was Rick Springfield's song?
How do I know everything? You know more than I do. No.
Yeah.
I'm looking this up. But
I know it wasn't Sunglasses at Night, because Sunglasses at Night was Corey Hart. Yeah. IMDb. Let's see, soundtracks. Let's see here. Oh, here we go.
No, wait. He did have Jesse's Girl.
Oh, he did do Jesse's Girl.
Yes.
Hey, so there we go. That was my mistake. See, I knew he had a huge. Yeah, Jesse's Girl. Okay, yeah. So there we go. He was the man who did. See, I always thought, for some reason, I thought that was Bruce Springsteen. That's just how talented Rick Springfield is. He is a handsomer Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, there's a bunch. That's the one I really recognize as Jesse's Girl. Or Don't Talk to Strangers, Human Touch, I've Done Everything for You, Love Somebody.
The guy was a icon of the 80s in so many ways, and here he is making his big break in what should have been the start of an ongoing series. I don't know what they would have called it, but it would have been great because it would have really been a nice introduction of more superhumanity to the Hulk universe. But okay, so let's get down to our breakdown of the story. We open up David Banner after the events of Mystery Man. I'm guessing is starting to contemplate, missed opportunities and things he has not done, and so returns to Master Lee Sung, who promises to teach him how to broach the mind-body connection to become master of the Hulk, as it were, become master of the difficulties that have plagued him for so long. As unfortunately, even as this is actually a nice thing for David, and he has this opportunity to really grow beyond, there is another problem going on in the background, which is that a gangster by the name of Lynch, who is not above using bombs to kill people.
Well, remember what universe we're in too.
Yes. Well, this is actually a very interesting thing, because this is actually something. And I actually wanted to go back and double check on this to rewatch to see if he was actually on the run as being a mad bomber or if he was just a gangster. He is just a gangster. He just likes to use bombs. Mm-hmm. And it's an important thing to remember in 1979, in the 1960s up until the late 70s, domestic terrorism was a very big thing, as big, if not bigger, than it is now. People really lived in fear of this idea of domestic terrorism because bombs were so easy to get and so easy to make. And so a lot of people who had axes to grind and grudges to have would make bombs and would blow stuff up. And this was a real threat to many people around the country. And so, of course, we did a lot of, the actions were took to limit people's access to explosive materials. And, so we have many fewer mad bombers nowadays. We won't talk about what mad bombers are using now, because we don't want to get too political. But this is the idea: is that at that time, people would, this was a real ongoing threat, and that isn't his thing. He's just using this device of the bomb, as his sort of, if you will, his supervillainy shtick. We get so close to comic bookiness in these episodes, and this is definitely no exception. Of course, what happens is we have the Rourke family. Tim Rourke, played by Stacy Keach Sr. I'm guessing he is the father of the more famous Stacy Keach, because he was an old guy here. But Stacy Keach Sr. He is the father of the Rourke brothers, Michael and Colin, played by Gerald McRaney and Rick Springfield. We established that Rick Springfield, despite being the whitest man in San Francisco, has numerous connections throughout the Chinatown or the Japanese town or the Asian town community, we'll say.
Well, I think it's because he's the nice brother. The other one's basically willing to, beat people.
That Rick Springfield, Mike Rourke, apparently has a deep respect for the culture, and we know that from the previous episode that Lee Sung's establishment, is actually quite powerful and influential. That Lee Sung, who winds up as sort of the head of the organization of is actually someone who is respected in the community, and so one can see how his relationship with Lee Sung as Lee Sung's disciple and successor has ingratiated himself to this community, allowing him to move freely between two worlds to get this information that he needs, and to, as it were, make a better be a better cop because of it. They get the tip on Lynch. It's he's holed up in this hotel with some lady. Lena Raymond actually plays his informant, who I hope would have been a part of that series. And now when I ever get around to writing the McGee Files, I am definitely going to have Michael Rourke as the kung fu detective with his consort and number one assistant, Jolie. That'll be awesome. And they get the tip for where Lynch is. They go to the place, and again, like I say, because his father and his brother are these old school cops who they don't need no backup, they're going to run in there guns a-blazing, and of course that results in people dying. Because what the real lesson of the story is that sometimes you can do a better job as a cop if you're not going in guns blazing. Note to self. Father dies, but Lynch is shot in the liver, and so he is in pretty bad shape. And Mike has to sort of deal with this trauma, and so he, of course, goes to his spiritual guru Sung Lee, and this, of course, is how we get our interaction with David Banner. So we actually sort of build our friendship as we go through this. We do see that, again, superpower kung fu can heal bullet wounds and things like that, because when he collapses in the dojo, Sung Lee basically tells him, "Get up already!" Just, What are you crying? You got a little gunshot wound. Just heal that up. Go ahead, do that now.
I think it's that they can control the bleeding or at least slow it down.
There is some scientific evidence in the field of biofeedback where, yes, absolutely, you can do this. It does take a masterful amount of discipline, and this is something that, if David Banner could control it, could actually give him some control over the Hulk. But it is a very complex thing. But then, of course, these are the things that went on to influence so much of Hulk stories as time went on, is these ideas that are explored here, and then you see them again in the comic book, and much more so when we get to the 80s and the 90s with the Hulk comic, where we do see David using hypnosis and meditation to try and, since just injecting yourself with chemicals wasn't working, he actually tries this. And then, of course, once he gets cured, he goes right back to jamming a needle into his arm, and let's get some isotopes in there, man, because he missed it so much. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, read some recent Civil War books, or just listen to the all-new Marvel Roundup, where we talk about this stuff incessantly. Okay, moving right along. Sung Lee, he keeps on having these heart attacks, as you do. One of which, David is in a metal thing because he needs to, because apparently that's a training exercise, is just to unhinge your thumbs and move them through steel handcuffs. And he's doing that, and then, of course, Sung Lee has his heart attack. David gets in a panic. Hulk's out. We get our first Hulk out, and Sung Lee tells Michael to go take care of David because he's in his condition, David's delicate condition, and so he goes to help David. He sees what the Hulk can do. We get a great little bit there with noted Asian character actor John Fujioka, who plays the Man, who wants to pay the Hulk to be his new attraction, but of course Hulk isn't buying it, and throws a spotlight, and then calms down and turns back to David. And this gets into what is going to be our primary conflict of the episode, Sung Lee says, yes, I'm dying, but I can die now because I have my new successor in Michael. Because apparently, like being a Jedi, it takes about a week of intensive training in Kung Fu to become a master. It is not something that is a long, arduous journey. You just sort of have to, once you get the do not, there is no try, there is do or do not. You say, oh, okay, then I'll do. And then once you get that Yoda do it, you can do it. Yay.
Yeah, but you don't know how long Michael and Lee Sung have known each other, and he's been coming to.
We know that Lee Sung has only been here for a few episodes. When we think back to when Lee Sung came back to the JoJo, and then we had to defeat the evil karate master.
Cobra Kai.
Yeah, Lee Sung has only been here about, I want to say maybe, because it's all been this season. He was here so about a year, because Another Path aired in 1978. This one airs in 1979. Another Path was October 1978. This is March 1979. So about 6 months.
Okay.
About 6 months it takes to become the master. But I guess if you were the chosen one, like Michael Rourke was, and again, what we're seeing in this is what is the inherent mighty whitey trope, which is perhaps why this was passed on, arguably, even though it was a standard trope in the 1970s, and all through to this day, the mighty whitey is still a very common thing, whether you're the Last Samurai or the Avatar, it doesn't matter. You can come into any mystical society and within a week become the world's best at everything they do. Because that's just the power of whiteness. I'm being sarcastic, but yes. But that is the trope. And I don't want to hammer it too horribly, because of course this is not, you could have had really any Asian actor in the same spot would have been in the same situation where it would have only been 6 months. So you can't really say, it's so horrible, but it is horrible that it does wind up being that it's Rick Springfield. But anyway, so Springfield doesn't want to be the master because he's a cop. He's always been a cop. He doesn't know how to be anything else. But, as he's dealing with what he decides he does, David, at great risk to himself, but fortunately, Jack McGee's still recovering from a compound fracture, which is why I think that's why we have to say this has to be pretty much, he went right from the last episode, he came straight here. He's sort of doubling back, probably, if for nothing else, just because, hey, I knew that's one place I know Jack McGee really didn't get here until I was done. Mm-hmm. And this is also a place where I can really start to address these past issues. This is all headcanon. But I'm going to say that it all works for this. So he knows Jack McGee's still laid up. That's why he doesn't show up right away after the first Hulk out. And then, of course, once David decides to stay, it then becomes the Michael Rourke show. And we do get honestly, what I thought was some well-written and well-acted interplay between him and Gerald McRaney. And honestly, like I said, I really would have liked to have seen this series. I think that the interaction between the brothers, the cross-cultural connection with the Kung Fu would have been interesting. And, it would have been very nice to see where this would have gone. Would have been very cool to see, Lee Sung coming back as sort of a Jedi ghost, but was not to be. They eventually find out where Lynch is. The cops are going to come down with complete and utter force and chaos. And David convinces Mike to take him with him because if Lynch is injured, he's going to need a doctor. As it turned out, he didn't so much, but that's okay because they immediately lock David into a cop car when he tries to enter the scene. And then, of course, the Hulk in a car, he gets angry. because he doesn't like being in cars. And we get our Hulk out, and then the Hulk goes in, triggers all of these bombs. And for what it's worth, I think we get in this one of the big sort of missed opportunities in the Hulk universe, which is that they very early on established that this Hulk is not bulletproof. Mm-hmm. Nor even does he have a super rapid healing. He has a relatively rapid healing factor, but not like what it is in the comic books. And actually, for the longest time, there was actually this question about whether or not the Hulk was bulletproof in the comic books. It wasn't until about the 90s that they really said the Hulk is bulletproof except when it's adamantium bullets. And then, but then even when he gets hit by an adamantium bullet, he heals almost immediately. And that was when he was fighting with the classic Todd McFarlane, I think Todd McFarlane, Peter David issue of Wolverine versus the Hulk, Grey Hulk. We have that very classic image of the Hulk reflected in Wolverine's claws. Really fantastic. But that was really when we first get the establishment of the comic book Hulk's level. This one, they can't have Lynch sort of pull the gun on the Hulk, so they have him completely missing the Hulk even as he's shooting at him. Yet this box the Hulk is holding, because we can't have the bullets just bounce off the Hulk, and we can't, and it wouldn't help if the Hulk gets shot in this scene. So, it was a missed opportunity. It was something that they maybe could have dealt with in story a little better, but we're going to deal with it. Basically, Rick keeps the Hulk from detonating one more bomb after he's already detonated 3, but the Hulk survives all the bomb explosions, so that's the good news. Yeah. But this last one, he says, "No, wait, don't set off one more bomb. Let me pull the wire so that it doesn't break." And then the Hulk runs off, and he gets Lynch to the doctors. He confronts his brother and says, "We have to be good cops." And Gerald McRae is like, "Whoa, right, I'll be a good cop." And they get Lynch to the hospital. And then we find out that Rick Springfield at the end, he's going to become a private eye. And David's going to move on because, I guess he has to move on. But who knows? Maybe we'll see Rick Springfield again later. Maybe we'll do another backdoor pilot, but probably not. Because I'm sure David just says, "Hey, look, Lee Sung, I take the advice from, but Rick Springfield, I mean, you couldn't even get Jesse's girl. Why should I trust you to teach me how to control?" And that's this episode. What did you think, Phil?
Well, like I told you before, I completely got the vibe that this was supposed to be a backdoor pilot, especially since the story really wouldn't have changed much if you had taken David Banner and the Hulk out. I mean, look at the 2 Hulk outs. In the first one, I mean, David Hulk's out, busts out of the thing, and gets the Lee Sung. But 5 seconds later, Michael walks in, so it easily could have just been Michael walking in. And then the second one, with the warehouse, I think everything would have went down in the warehouse exactly as it did, except there wouldn't have been any fire or explosions because the Hulk wouldn't have been there to set them off.
Yes. So, this is definitely a Hulk superfluous episode. We do get those from time to time. Mm-hmm. You know what my biggest complaint is about this episode?
Lou Ferrigno wearing green stockings on his feet?
No. That I didn't even notice because I tend to watch on low resolution television. So because I want that 1979 experience, Mm-hmm. When we get into that HD stuff, that you start noticing these things and in proper low definition as God intended. It's all perfect.
You godless heathens, and you in your HD.
Yeah, why do you gotta look at things so close? Don't look so close. In my day, we didn't look at nothing. We just accepted it's a Hulk, and don't worry, it's a Hulk. He's hulking. Let him Hulk. But no. What bugs me the most about this is the third karate-centric episode where we don't get Hulk versus karate. Mm-hmm. And it's like this is the one thing where you could really show an actual bit of stunt work with Lou Ferrigno. And maybe, there's issues like, if we throw him, all that paint's going to wipe off or something. I don't know exactly what their thinking is, but you miss this great opportunity to really have something that the Hulk has a vulnerability to. It's like Superman and magic, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You bring out magical characters for Superman because, hey, this is the one thing that Superman has weaknesses against, and he can't, and he has to, and we get to see Superman actually not be super permanent yet still triumph. Karate is one of these things that the Hulk can have weaknesses against, especially this Hulk. I mean, this Hulk, if you were to do a Batman diaphragm kick in this universe, that's actually totally plausible with a Lou Ferrigno. I mean, he's going to recover, but you could see it knocking the wind out of the Hulk for a second. And that we missed that again, it's very disappointing to me, you know, especially when we see Rick Springfield, you know, breaking chains and bending steel and doing some really superhuman feats. We get this opportunity to really, once again, have some superhumanity interaction, and then again, it gets pushed to the side because it wasn't about the Hulk. This was not a Hulk episode. This was a Michael Rourke, The Disciple episode. I wonder if that would have been the name of the series, The Disciple. Although, who he's the disciple of? I guess he'd still technically be the disciple of Sung Lee. In which case, like I said, and having that spiritual presence of Lee Sung as a character in there would have been very cool. So definitely going to write that when we write the Jack McGee files.
What about the title Iron Fist Hero for Hire?
Oh, that would have been great, man. Michael Rourke, the Iron Fist Hero for Hire. I love it. That would have been fantastic. And I was waiting for someone to... I don't know. And again, like I said, it's one of these things where I know they don't want to do that comic bookiness. That's not really what they want to do. But it's like, oh, you put it right up to the edge. And again, like I say with these things, it's like sometimes I feel like they go right up to the edge because they intentionally want to be right up to that edge, but then they want to pull back and say, we're not going to do that.
But a lot of, I mean, some of these characters were, you know, pretty close to, you know, Marvel Comics characters. Like you were saying, Rick Springfield could be your Iron Fist. Even Lee Sung, you could make a comparison to Stick from Daredevil, the old blind ninja master.
Well, yeah, not for nothing. I mean, you know, Stick is a trope that was established in this era. This is where we have Kung Fu's blind master. We have Lee Sung as the blind master. I believe Kung Fu came out before this, but the idea of the blind master that's a Hong Kong trope to start with.
Oh, yes.
You know. The only thing nice about this was that, of course, it was actually an Asian blind master, unlike the recent Daredevil TV show, where they decided, no, we're just going to have him be the Mighty Whitey from the start. So we don't even have to worry about it, you know. White people are best at karate. Hooray! I don't know where, you know, it's like no sense when they're writing these things, you know, but
it was the late 70s. Do you think maybe they were worried that if they did give us like an all Asian cast, and they were trying to spin this off, that people
no, it would not have, yeah, you know, I mean, it's well known that Bruce Lee was supposed to be the star of Kung Fu, and then they said, no, we're just gonna put tape on Carradine's eyes, and that's gonna be enough. You know, and no, literally, that's. I mean, that maybe I know that Bruce Lee was friends with the producer, and that is the story. Is that Bruce Lee pitched Kung Fu to the producer, because the producer was also the producer on the Green Hornet at the time. And they were going to do that with Bruce Lee as the star, and then the network said, no, we're not going to put an Asian man as the star. You know, we need, you know, people just aren't going to accept it, you know, which of course was foolish, because that was like, he was about to become one of the biggest stars, you know, in the Kung Fu cinema. They could have had that, and they didn't, because, you know, racism. And so, yeah, and it is racism in this, but it would have been great. And, you know, I would love to see, based on drudging up this episode, I really now want to see some memes of, like, you know, Iron, you know, I don't know what you'd call it, because it's like Iron Fist 1979. You know how they show, here's who would have played these characters in the previous things, and you know, and it's like, this is Iron Fist 1979 with Rick Springfield as Iron Fist and Mako as Stick, I guess. You know, it's pretty much established, and Lynn Raymond as Elektra. I'll go with that. That works for me. But all in all, it was a good episode. You have to always remember where these things come from. That the reason why these things are tropes is because they did this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
If it was just, oh no, you wouldn't even notice if this was like the one time that they did that, the one time that they had, the white guy become the ninja master in 6 months. If it was the one time, you wouldn't notice it. But of course, it is a trope. But we're going to accept it because it was well written and it was well done. And if we were to redo it now, it would be probably a slightly different story. But that's okay. And of course, it's fodder for the McGee files, and we're looking forward to those. Anything else to say about this episode, Phil?
No, I think we pretty much said it all.
Yeah, well, great. So why don't you give me your social media? How can folks find you if they want to talk about, why does Charlie have to inject politics and race into everything, and complain about me not just enjoying the series for the fun, lighthearted, joyful romp that it is? Where can they write to you, Phil?
Well, if you want to see Charlie Esser as the blind old ninja master, the mighty whitey, you can email me, nightwingpdp@gmail.com. On Twitter, I am at nightwingpdp. And I guess just go to southgatemediagroup.com if you want to check out all the podcasts and blogs, some of mine, some of others. Just check it all out.
Yes, please do. And of course, if you'd like to write to me in that old-fashioned email way and just complain to me to my face, or my electronic face, which is ironically enough Reed Richards. If you'd like to write to me at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And of course, tweet along with me on the Twitters as I live tweet episodes of The Incredible Hulk every Saturday night at 7 o'clock on MeTV by following me at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality. And check out all of our great shows at Southgate Media and the 80s Reboot Overdrive. Okay, thanks for listening, folks. Hulk out with us again next week. Good night.
We hope you've enjoyed this show. This podcast is part of the 80s Reboot Overdrive channel on Southgate Media Group. You can follow us on Facebook on the 80s Reboot group page. We're also on Twitter and Tumblr at 80s Reboot. We invite you to check out all the wonderful podcasts and blogs available at southgatemediagroup.com. And thank you for reliving the 80s.